Live. Welcome to our Set the Pace Monday. So every Monday, most every Mondays, we are here live, and we are now live on multiple channels, including YouTube for the ones who are not on Instagram or Facebook. So you still can have access to all of it on YouTube as well. And we can interact with comments on YouTube. So I'm going to say hello here for everybody. Yay. So if you do commenting on YouTube, we can interact on on here. Okay. Well, welcome. So today we have somebody that has not been on here yet. So we have our dear Marita. Marita is from Norway. We've been almost a decade now
Yeah.
doing all kinds of different type of work, and including one of the themes that we have for today, which is the divine feminine. And we also will be covering with our dear astrologer Alessandra. She's going to be talking a little bit about new moon and the Chinese New Year. And then DJ was like, so what do you think about this theme? Should I jump on? I said, of course, because it's the divine feminine and it's in everybody, regardless if you're a man or a woman. Okay, so the we all have both, right? We have the feminine, we have the masculine, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that through our live today in our podcast. If you are listening to this as a podcast, if you want to have the visuals, sometimes we are sharing some visuals here. You can see it live on Instagram or on YouTube or Facebook. So, welcome everybody. Such a joy to have you on here today. And let's get started. Let's go right into it. So, Ali, you told me last week that again there's some alignments there. What happened?
Well, let's start. Let's see if I can get my mind straight because after the stress with the computer, I'm sorry if I sound a bit airy, but I'm going to balance now. I just dropped some water in my computer and I burned it. It's okay. So,
Mercury is not even in retrograde anymore. Like,
no, it's not. But we have, you know what we have today? We have, for the first time in our lives, Mercury and Pluto together in Aquarius. Okay, so the exact day is today. And Pluto can be crisis, and Mercury is communication. So I'm having big communication crisis with a burned computer right now, but we will overcome that. So we talked about Chinese horoscope, Chinese astrology, and because they have their new year this week on Friday. Well, depending on the time zone that you are, it's on the 10th of February. Um, and it's going to be a very important year because it's the dragon, the wooden dragon year. Okay. So for people that doesn't know, the Chinese astrology is the signs are chosen for one whole year. So everybody that was born in that year has the same sign, although they also have the rising sign depending on the time that you were born. So you can say that you are, for instance, as myself, I am a pork, but my rising sign is dragon. So actually, that's a very important year for me. It's very interesting because they celebrate for 4 days is one of the most important days of the year of the calendar. They use the moon calendar and based on the phase of the moon. So we already have some of the feminine aspects there. But the dragon is a very masculine sign and energy. So actually, we are going to have a lot of masculine energy on this year from the Western astrology as well, because we have Saturn ruling and Pluto is very strong as well. So we will have to balance that. And I think that the oils will be one of the options to balance this feminine in such a masculine year. So it will start February the 10th, and it's going to last 1 year. What is very nice about the Chinese astrology also, it's because it's very related to the medicine, the Chinese medicine. And actually, we used to be like this in the Western. We used to relate astrology to astronomy. It was one thing only, and to medicine as well. So, all the herbs and the plants and the medicine that someone needed for some disease or something that they were feeling, it was related to the birth chart. It was related to the signs of their uh, map in the sky and the day that the time that they were born. So it's very related, and the Chinese is still is. We kind of separated that. We are kind of having a comeback now, but we separated there for many centuries, but not the Chinese. So looking forward for this dragon year. Very adventurous, very brave, fearless energy. Regarding the plants, it's related to rosemary. Regarding to the smell, to the aroma, it's related to lavender. The month that dragon rules is April. The lucky number is 8, which is the number of 2024 for numerology. So another coincidence there. The color is red, and the time of the day is from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So that's what we have for dragon. Oh, sorry. And the dragon years, people that were born on 1964, 76, 88, 2000, and 2012.
I love that. So when you say the time is 7 to 9 a.m., that is the best time for what?
That's the best time this year for the dragon energy. So things that you want to see, projects that you want to see growing, things that you want to develop, the energy, the strongest energy is between 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. because that's the time frame that the dragon rules. And April is the strongest month.
Hang on, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So
9
basically,
a.m., 2 hours
oh,
only. It's 2 hours
okay.
only.
So I was gonna say, well, if it's all day long, your chances of procrastination are really big. You
No,
have
no, it's
all
very
day to figure this out.
concentrated. It's very concentrated. And actually, the Chinese, they simplify a lot because in our astrology, the Western astrology, it depends on the place that you were born, and we can have difference if it's a minute or 5 minutes sometimes in a chart. They just simplify from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Amazing. So you talked about rosemary, right? That's what
Yes.
you mentioned. So rosemary is we have a book that I absolutely love that is called Essential Emotion. And Christina can even speak a little bit more on it too, because she is essential emotion coach. And it is the emotional side of the plants. And it is so amazing when you read about it and you put it together and you make the connections. You're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense, right? So rosemary is the oil of knowledge and transition. And also I remember when we were learning a little bit more about rosemary, we were talking about the roots. And in the in true knowledge, that is it surpasses all understanding when we talk about the roots of the rosemary. And that is an oil that I always recommend for people to have more mental clarity, not only emotionally, right? In the talking about how, hey, how can I be able to clear my mind so I can take the next step? I always recommend rosemary. And it is also an oil that helps people who are not teachable to become teachable. And this is huge for us that we all work together here, right? We are me, Ali, Teddy, Christina, and Marita. We've been doing this work for almost 10 years together. And we are wellness advocates with doTERRA. And this is a huge thing for us. And this is something I was talking to DJ right before we started this session, was the beauty of our way of teaching and is the mentorship, because we teach what we learn, and ideally we try as much as we can to tell people to not make the same mistakes, right? So, and then being teachable has been one of the biggest issues that I've encountered through my journey in doTERRA, because I attracted a lot of incredible, brainiac, intellectual learners and teachers and their PhDs. And, they kind of like know it all, really. Like they know so much. But when they come into what we do, they are just starting just like everybody else, right? So the teachable part of what we do is critical, because if you're not teachable, then naturally you can learn. You can, but what I've noticed, the ones that aren't teachable, and I love all my leaders, but there's one of them in specific. She always took the longest and the hardest route because she just wanted to do things her way, which is beautiful too. But it's very interesting to see that every time they go not being teachable ends up being a longer road. But then it goes to what you said. Sometimes that's the
It,
path.
Of
People,
course.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting because they relate dragon to the sign of Aries, which
a
is a
herb,
very Aries, the
Aries.
sign,
Oh, hard-headed
Aries, the
man.
sign. Yes, exactly.
Is anybody Aries here? My mom is an Aries. I love you, mom.
I have a lot of Aries in my chart, so I cannot talk about Saturn Aries, but
No, I love Aries. Are to me, the Aries I know they're very pioneering. They pioneer a lot of different programs, a lot of
Mhm.
different things. So another connection that I made here that you said mental clarity, and we're talking about Aquarius, right? Aquarius are
Yes,
really like, woo, let's fly, let's dream. And then you're like, come back here, let's put your feet back in this earth so you don't fly away. So I think there's a lot of connection there with the rosemary again. So rosemary,
yes.
mental clarity, also being open to new experiences. You mentioned adventurous, right? Fearless.
Yes, and I like for Aquarius as well, Cypress, because
Cypress, the flow.
Aquarius is very funny because people think, oh, that's the good friend, the one that's all set up for everything, for adventures. But we need to remember that Aquarius is a fixed air. So when it puts something in the head, when it has a thought, it's very can be very fixed. So we need to be to look that there are two types of Aquarius. There is the most like rebel, different, eccentric one, but there is a kind of Aquarius that is ruled by Saturn that can be very strategic and very, especially in the thoughts, in the thinking, the way of thinking. So it's funny because when you have a sign that is ruled by two planets, you have this possibility of having. Of course, you have to see the rest of the chart, but we have this duality in the sign, and Aquarius has a lot of that. And I think about Cypress to let it go, those fixed thoughts. And the conjunction that I was talking today, that I think that was responsible for burning my computer, is that Pluto is very obsessive and very intense, and Mercury is our thoughts, our mental part. So with this aspect in Aquarius, that is also a fixed sign, we can be very there is a possibility to be very obsessive with some thoughts. So we need to, I think Cypress is perfect to let it go and keep only the things that you need to keep, but do not get too obsessive.
Amazing. Yeah, so cypress is the oil of flow. And rosemary is also an oil for you to be able to have the ability to adjust. So all connected, right? For you, because we are, if you're not usually, right, if you're not open to new experiences, it's because you're fearful of the new. You're fearful of, hey, what I don't know, right? Which requires a lot of surrendering. So I think it's always connected, right? You're talking about being obsessive, being too much in your head. And I just had this experience the past month. And the moment I surrendered, things flowed. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I use a lot of plants to help me get to the, it doesn't happen like that. Oh, let's just surrender right now. No biggie. It takes some tools. And I love that. I love cypress and rosemary
It's
for
very
those.
it's very hard to let go. And just to, I mean, finish this astrological part to let everybody talks is the moon, the new moon chart. We do the charts for the phases of the moon as well. There is a lot of Pluto energy because Pluto just changed to Aquarius last January the 20th. And there is a lot of energy. All the close planets, the personal planets we say that are closer to the sun, they are very close to Pluto right now. So today was Mercury. On the 14th is going to be Mars. So a lot of violence can be raised worldwide. We have to be observing that. And on the 17th is going to be Venus. So hopefully to bring some love to this intense month. And so the new moon has this aspect, which, of course, in each country is going to have a different little chart difference depending on the time zone. But this, I think that the main thing is this energy with Pluto. And for people that know their charts, the new moon is going to be on the 20th degree of Aquarius, which if you have from the degree 19 to the 21st, if you have planets or important areas of your chart on those degrees, you're going to feel this new moon more intensively. And that makes for Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius in a more intense way, and in an easier way for Gemini and Libra.
More intense for Scorpios? I'm already intense enough. No need.
Yes, intensity is our middle name.
I was like, it's almost like my first name. If it's not to
Yeah,
be intense, don't
exactly.
even invite me. Like, don't even, it's not even fun.
Ah,
Oh, I
yes.
love it. Oh, so cool. What's your sign, DJ?
I don't know. Here's my sign.
No, you don't know
How
your
can
horoscope?
you?
December
December what?
3rd.
Third. Oh, he's Sagittarius.
Oh,
This is so
that's why
cool
he
though.
doesn't believe in any of this.
My daughter is December 5th.
Sagittarians
So
usually are the most skeptical ones.
I'm sitting here with a very listening ear. I'm actually taking a lot of notes. I think it's very interesting because I know
Good.
that men and female brains, we think differently. And it's good to hear how you guys organize the world. It's very interesting to me.
that's so
The
interesting
key
that you don't
word
know
for
your
you
horoscope.
is, yeah, the key word for Sagittarians is knowledge. So if I never try to convince them of anything. I just say seek the knowledge of this subject and you see. It's not a thing that I need to convince someone to believe. It's just, but each sign has a way of connecting with not only astrology, but anything in the cosmos. So Sagittarius is through knowledge. It's in the knowledge axis of Sagittarius and Gemini.
And that makes total sense because you're a total self-learner, yeah. Like you go after
Yeah,
it, you learn and you
I do. This is true.
research and it's pretty amazing how that works.
they are
Yeah, and
learners.
then
They are avid
Addie's like that
learners.
too. Yeah, my daughter's like that. So if I tell her to do something, it doesn't work. She has to
Mhm.
do it herself. Yes, wow. I love it. So now that you gave the connection to Venus, so first, new moon. So when we talk about new moon, so for you, Ali, I think new moon meant get a new computer. You just burnt your computer down.
Exactly. But it has to
So
be in a Pluto way. He killed my computer.
it was Pluto's fault this time. Mercury is not the villain
No,
at
it
this
was
moment.
Pluto all the way. It was Pluto all the way. It was he burned the whole thing completely.
Oh, I love it. If we could only just blame the planet for all the stuff that we live, right? But of course, I do feel that it has a lot of influence in what happens. So when you talk about new moon and people, naturally they're like, oh, new moon, new beginnings, new everything. So what does that mean exactly?
It is a new beginning. But if we think that we have a new moon every 28 days, it's a short period of time. So we don't say that, okay, every month we are going to begin something. Okay. But it's a nice energy to reset or to something maybe that you stopped or you gave up. And maybe it's the perfect time in the month to do that. We women are very connected with the moon phases because it's the same amount of days of the period, the menstruation period, right? So it's 28, 29 days. So we are very connected with that. And the new moon is connected to fertility, actually. So that's why you think about creating something, about starting something. And but it doesn't mean, of course, that every month you're going to do, but it's a nice energy to do so. And we depend on the signs that are involved on those, on that moon. So, as I said, the fixed signs, as usual, the Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, and in the easiest way, Libra and Gemini. They are more like a little bit easier for them this specific month. Next month, it's another story.
Can't wait. So fertility, huh? I'm running for my husband this
Yes.
week then, yeah? Okay. The whole month, the
Mm.
whole week.
My goodness, another one.
Depending on him, we would have like 10 kids. But then
Okay.
we're good. We're good at three. Cool. So, but then also for the ones who are trying, this is a good time,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Awesome. All right. So
exactly.
if you guys are trying to become parents, this is it. This is a good time. Uh, Another thing that I wanted to ask you was when you talked about the herbs and the plants, right, connected to the dragon.
Hmm.
What else did you have listed that could be something that can either enhance or maybe ease some of the intensity besides the rosemary and the cypress?
Something that I forgot to say, but as you are a Scorpio cycle, you already read my mind, which is the
A
lotus
little
flower.
bit.
The lotus
Blue
flower is
lotus.
related to the dragon. Yeah.
Wow. I love it so much.
And I think it's a very powerful flower, right? And since we are talking that dragon is so masculine and we are in a masculine year of Saturn and Pluto and all that, I think lotus would be great. Unfortunately, here in Brazil, we do not have yet with doTERRA, but lotus in general, it's connected to this force of the dragon.
Yeah, wow, the blue lotus is incredible. Christina, do you want to talk a little bit on it? The blue lotus one?
Yeah, I can definitely talk on the Blue Lotus. My voice is a little messed up, so bear with me.
Sounds
Um,
sexy.
but thanks. I will look it up on my app super quick. We're actually just talking about Blue Lotus in our emotions group, um, and it's
Just the
amazing
scent.
because it's for those of you who don't know, Emily Wright is one of our founding executives at doTERRA, the only female, and Blue Lotus is her favorite, and they
And
just
she's the
announced it.
CEO, a
Yes,
woman CEO of a multi-billion dollar company. It's pretty
right.
amazing.
And her favorite is Blue Lotus, and she was really excited to announce that it's now a product that doTERRA can offer year round. So it's really great for exploring higher realms and exploring further into your spiritual purpose. So that's why this is nice that this is one of the other botanicals that you chose to talk about. Um, but right,
And
yeah,
it's from China, which, yes, they were talking
exactly.
about Chinese New Year. So it is. It's sourced in China. And
From
it's the
this
only,
amazing one little spot in China. And so the fact that doTERRA has come in and brought this opportunity to the community to earn some more income. They grow it in a sustainable way, of course. They're offering more income, more job opportunities to the community as well. So the women go in and by hand remove the parasites and things off the flowers and take care of them. So it's an amazing thing going on over there in that community. But yeah, the Blue Lotus oil asks you to rise above your lesser inclinations and reclaim your inherent birthright and potential. So this is the time to do it and move forward and, you know, have that Kundalini arising moment, you know, like really expand spiritually.
Do you know what Kundalini is?
No, what is that?
I love that Damon is totally in the physical. Like, we're
It's
gonna get you
fascinating.
shredded and fit.
I
And
love
then
that
here we
we're here
are.
to teach
We're
you
like the
this.
total polar opposite. This is masculine, feminine. We're like the total opposite. We're like Kundalini, Rose, and Blue Lotus.
So that's like a name of like a yoga practice, right? Like a
It
spirituality.
is.
Then?
So you do know. Yes,
Oh,
it is.
yeah, for the term, yeah.
Yes, and it is that energy, right? That you talked about the color red, which in chakra balancing we were talking about base, right? Foundation. And that's awesome that we're starting it right in the beginning of the year. So the Kundalini energy, and then Marita can elaborate more on this when she talks about the feminine, but it's basically you generating that energy that goes up through the spine. That's what the snake meaning of it. And
Okay.
and you rise above. So whatever your belief is, some, we talk about attaining Buddhahood or enlightenment, or other cultures, your higher self, your connection to your spiritual practice or realm, and taking
And the
this
dragons
opportunity.
are considered the big snakes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it. I love when you make connections and I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. Yes, yes. I absolutely love that. And taking the connection, the opportunity to make that you said about Venus, right? 17th. So then, Marita, this is your stuff, right? Are you excited? What's going on there with the divine feminine?
Oh, so excited. Oh, and there's just, this is just so fun to listen into. And Ali, thanks for sharing all of your wisdom. And it's good to kind of talk about the feminine a little bit, as you're kind of, mentioning the strong sort of masculine energies of this year. So we got to balance that with, deeply connecting with the feminine, and just as you all been talking, and by the way, Blue Lotus is just perfect for all of this is going on right now. But what I just wanted to sort of touch upon was the importance of staying in the heart and leading from the heart and living from the heart. And when there is this really strong forward movement, which there is, and there's so much going on and so much happening and so much shifting, it's just, we're not going to go back. We all know that we're not going to go back to how it was, and it's forward, and everything's changing and shifting. So we got to stay so deeply connected to the truth of who we are, and kind of ride this wave and stay centered and balanced. And when we know who we are, we're in our power, right? And so, yes. And I also just want to address vulnerability. For me, this is something that is sort of rising a lot. I feel for the collective, for all of us, to be vulnerable and to let ourselves be seen as we are, and to not, be tough and strong and keep it all together and look at me like, just, no, this is me, and let ourselves be seen in this way. I think vulnerability is what sort of brings us all together. In you, I see me. And so powerful. So by being vulnerable, it opens so much for other people. They see that they're not alone. What they feel, someone else is also feeling, or going through, and it unites us. And as the feminine is rising on this planet, it's a great sort of return. We're returning to the mother, and kind of like to say that our great mother was sort of taken away from us. And in a lot of my work, I see this longing for people to be held by the mother and just be loved and held and seen. And so, and there's just so much beautiful openings of the heart and love. And in this process, and I'm so glad that we have a man with us here in this podcast today, as we're talking about the feminine, because as the feminine is like, as I say, the goddess energy is really being anchored on this planet. It allows for men to feel all of their feelings and emotions without being made fun of, or like, be a man and toughen up and don't feel anything, and and for women, it allows us to be soft and gentle and know that this is actually our power. So feminine power isn't the same as masculine power. It's very different. For a lot of women, it's kind of scary to allow themselves to be soft. And it really opens up everything for us. And it's our superpower. So yeah. But you see how this is also changing so much for men, because as Pamela, as you talked about, feminine and masculine, we all have both. So it's not gender specific, and for men, it's a wonderful opportunity to feel and express and be loved as they are, and it's beautiful. So there's so much beautiful things unfolding on this planet right now. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. And we touched on it a few podcasts ago. It's not even the difference, because it's not something that we compare, but because we all have it. But the characteristics of the masculine and the characteristics of the feminine.
Yeah.
And masculine is more connected to action. Masculine it's focused, it's structured. Not that the feminine isn't, but that's the natural guidance of men and women. Usually we're talking about like masculine, I see it as using as an example, since DJ is here. It's dynamic, it's logical, right? You don't base your decisions on emotions usually.
That's not usually how men are wired, no.
Right?
Which is also why I appreciate listening to this, because it's interesting. I've always known for a long time. I mean, I've done psychology classes back in college. I've spent my time paying attention to women, right? Because I think it's absolutely fascinating. The way you guys interact with the world and see the world is through an emotional lens first, and men are going to see it through a logical lens first, right? And I love what you were saying a second ago about, fully embracing who you are as a woman. It is in your nature to be vulnerable. It's in your nature to be soft and caring. And, I'm not even sure there's really good utility in the world to have to be tough necessarily, right? Especially for women. And I think being able to understand who you are and just expressing yourself, what you are, I think is beautiful. Now, do I understand everything? Not at all, right? Because that's not how my brain works. My brain isn't wired to notice the world in terms of days and months and cycles, as much as men use more probability and statistics to figure out the world, right? Neither is necessarily better than another. They both have their own place, because human beings together, men and women, we've created all society, right? We're always more beautiful together. So understanding how each other think, I think, is very important. So I enjoy listening. This is good.
But and you can see that it's really like sometimes polar opposite, right?
Yeah, but this is so important, because women, we need to understand men. They're different. We don't live life the same way. So when we're like, when women and when we understand men and men understand women, that's incredible, because men are just they're different. Very, very. They neither routines and there's structure and it's very logical. It's very different from the feminine flow, and we're cyclical and like, oh, it's a new moon, I need to rest. Women need a lot more rest. Men are way more like lots of energy. Let's go, 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 and you love it, and it's like get more energy out of it, and it's like, and we're cyclical. We move with the moon, and it's like, and every day, you know, we gotta. It's more flowy, and then we also have like this is the balance. So if I'm not in touch with my masculine energy, I'm not going to have any structure. I'm not going to be able to lead myself through the day and the week and, you know, life. I'm not going to be able to have strong boundaries or, you know, take a stand for who I am, and, you know, have my routines that support me. So and then same for men. It can get too rigid, too much up in the head, and totally disconnect from their intuition and their emotions. And then, you know, so it's the balance for all of us. Yeah. But
In astrology, it's very easy to locate because we go for the 4 elements. So water and earth, it's feminine, and fire and air is masculine. So we can see in the charts of men and women, those energies very well defined. And I'm a person that I do not have many, I don't have much water, which is most related to the feminine. So all my life, I stayed a lot in the masculine, doing things, actions and things like that. But there is also a moment in life that is going to be a transit or something in the sky that's going to touch those points for you to balance that. And it's very funny for me that I have a tattoo, which is part of my chart. And I realized that I just put the male planets. And then I discovered that by the side of each male planet, there was a goddess, but it was an asteroid. They were not planets. Even in astrology, women sometimes gets to the second. So because the main planets, they all related to masculine myths, and only Venus and the moon that are more feminine. All the planets are masculine. Let's say Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Mars, they are all masculines, the sun. And so I discovered that they were close to the planets, and I tattooed them as well. And this was like 2 months ago, 1 month ago. So it took 50 years of my life to discover some, and this can be in the opposite way as well. And you can have a lot of feminine energy and not knowing how to be more pragmatic and practical and active when you have to be. But in the chart, it's very easy to locate. Of course, the person has the options, but it's very easy to locate the feminine and the masculine in the chart, the birth chart.
Yeah, but society has been built on more of like corporate is more masculine energy, right? So then for you to fit in the corporate world, you would have to literally put on the pants and be in that energy. But what I learned in this course that I did with 50 other women, it was all women, and that's when she gave us the nuances of masculine and feminine. And one of the things that are fascinating is our brains are wired differently, physically speaking. So men's brain have, I think, 7 times more gray matter than women's brain, and it runs front and back, and like the wiring is like straight. And then women, it's like a spaghetti kind of wiring. So that's why we can multitask, right? We can like have a baby on the boob, you can cook dinner, talk to your mom on the phone, and tell the other kid to do something. Where for men, that's definitely harder. So when I saw memes that people send me, of like women kind of like, look, I'm doing 5 things and you're complaining about it. It doesn't even work like that, because it's just naturally not. We're wired differently, right? Another thing too that is incredible is men speak an average of 7,000 words a day. Women speak 20,000. Yeah, of course, right? We're absolutely different. And one of the biggest takeaways for me when I was when we did this class was to remember that, hey, can I have this corporate position and still bring in the feminine into it? You can absolutely do that. And that's, I think, the most important thing is it's not about the position or how, you ended up doing certain things in your life that are a little bit more masculine, but you bring the femininity into anything. And the importance of that is, the facilitator was even laughing. She's like, I have so many men that call me after the course and they're like, thank you so much. I'm so glad my wife went to it, because if you're in your masculine all day as a woman, by the end of the day, you get home, you're exhausted. So sorry, there's no making love. You're like, I want to eat and take a shower and go to bed, right? But if you are able to stay in that feminine and have that balance, you come home and you're like, okay, let's get it on because I'm feeling good. And it's the same thing for the men. And I can see, Luke, my husband is amazing. When we're here on Mondays, he's with the kids, and the kids come from, so he's on like full on super daddy duty, right? By the time I get there, when I'm done with this day, he's like, okay, bye. He takes off because he's just exhausted. Like, I can't have any more kid stuff or house and food and laundry. He's like, he's done, because it's just not natural, right? And it's not because he can't do it. He absolutely can, but it's definitely not a very flowy thing for us to do that, right? So once I understood that, it even made me position the way that I talk to Luke. Because before I'll be like, man, why can you do that? Or he would have the same frustration, right? Why can't you do that? And we talked about what happened in the course, and he was like, wow, that makes total sense, right? We are emotional. We use intuition a lot. Um, we talk until there's no more time, and you're like, oh man, we could have talked for another 4 hours. And we go by, we need to uncover feelings where they're like, well, give me the logic, A to B, A, B, C, think, boom. So the moment you're able to, even as a couple, if you're able to understand that, that's very basic understanding for me, that I thought every person should know this, because this helps relationships. So once you have a little bit of this kind of awareness of how things work, it makes sense. Even the eyesight of men and women. Men are farsighted. Women tend to be more like, can see close, because the baby's face, right, is right here. That's why a baby can see mommy's face, just that distance. And then men, for hunting, they had to see far. So all these things, it kind of like a light bulb went off every single time. And another thing that you mentioned, Marita, you said, the vulnerability, and you are not alone in when you show the vulnerability. And I just came back from KMR. I'm gonna talk about KMR next week. KMR is the Kealakekua Mountain Reserve that we do our sandalwood reforestation project with doTERRA and Hikiola. Hikiola is a nonprofit, and it is Antikia Lee who runs it, and she is partners in Kealakekua. She does incredible work there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But there is a saying in the dining hall that says in Hawaiian, "Ho'olau kanaka ika leo ona manu," and that means Leo is voice, Ho'olau kanaka is the ancestors, and like Ho'olau is here together, this area right here, and Manu is bird. So we learned that there. And what that means is, when you hear the sounds, the voice of the bird, right? The sounds of the birds, it means you're not alone. So that's why it's in our DNA. When you hear bird sounds, you feel good. You never feel like, oh gosh, there's a bird singing. You're like, oh, this feels so good. It is ingrained in us to know that there is life and there is safety, and it is, you're not alone. And that just, wow, that made such a big connection for me when I was there. And also you mentioned, returning to the mother, reconnecting to Mother Earth. That's all we did this past few days. And I'll tell you, I see myself doing that type of work because we're planting, we are putting seeds in the nursery, and that type of work for me is very feminine. The work that we do here is very feminine. We work with plants. We talk a whole lot. We make connections. We build relationships. I mean, it couldn't be more feminine, right? Type of work. But then there is the masculine side of it that, just like you said, Marita, if you don't get structured, if you don't get it done, then yeah, you're gonna be stuck.
Yeah. Because if you don't act on your intuition, then it's just intuition with no, like, it doesn't, that's feminine, masculine. The intuition is guiding me, but if I'm not taking an action upon this inner call, then I'm just gonna, nothing's gonna shift really. It's not gonna come into fruition. It's not gonna shape my life or guide me on this path.
Yeah.
So this balance, always, and I love what you talked about, just nature, and also the femininity in business, which is a huge topic of mine. And women, we're naturally radiant and well nourished. So it's a term I use a lot. Well nourished, like your life and your business be well nourished. And I think a lot of women have been told that, like, sort of like, business is like, your life can be nourished, but your business cannot, because you got to work hard and be all masculine and hustle. But we're coming back to the way of the goddess, the way of the feminine, and out of the hustle culture and out of the pressure and the expectations. And there's a reason so many women today are exhausted, burned out, overwhelmed, tired, fatigued, because they're overly driven by masculine energy and they're not connected to their inner goddess.
I love that. When you talked about vulnerability, I wanted to ask you a question, DJ.
Sure.
What does vulnerability look like in the masculine energy? Because I've seen Luke cry only 3 times, and we've been together a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I think the best way to see it is just like the entire theme of this podcast, right? Is men and women have different ways of processing things. You just mentioned a second ago about women having more like spaghetti brain and men having more of a linear. Well, the reason why that would be is evolutionarily, a woman needs to always have access to every single emotion as quickly as possible, because if they're trying to ascertain how their child is feeling at a very, very young age where it can't communicate things, women need to be in touch with their feminine nature strong enough to reach into every single emotion instantly so they know how the baby's feeling, right? And then what's ever happening is, I think that the whole masculine and feminine energy, I do believe that men and women have both, but I think it's very close, like a yin yang symbol. I think women have like a 5% masculine and men have a 5% feminine, because even our expression of that is done in a masculine or a feminine way. And I think what happens with women is, because you need to have access to every emotion every single day, it makes more sense for you to be able to be fluid that way. But if you have to push yourself into your quote unquote masculine, what you're doing is you're putting a hyper focus on one emotion, drive, and it exhausts you because you need to be able to be fluid. Just like for a man, we're very much point A to point B. If you focus us and make us go in circles and hit every single emotion, it doesn't feel right. We're not wired that way, right? So when it comes to male vulnerability, men need to be solution-based as much as women need to be heard, right? Like I've done a lot of, talks with guys who want to, self-delete. And in my opinion, there's a huge difference between male depression or the want or the need to kill themselves versus women. For men, if a guy doesn't see any options on how he can improve his life, if he feels like there's nothing I can do to make things better from an actionable standpoint, then guys will be like, I'm gone. But for women, it's more like, if I'm not being heard, then I'm gone, right? So when women say, oh, men should be more vulnerable, it's like, the vulnerability isn't really what a guy needs. A guy just needs solutions. And oftentimes it's difficult for a man to get solutions from his wife or his spouse or his female friends or, female family members that can give him actionable steps to where a man feels powerful. It's just like the opposite. If a woman wants to be heard and a guy's just saying, oh, well, why don't you just do this? Just do this. You're like, no, you're not hearing me. I'm trying to tell you what's going on. And the guy's like, well, just do this one thing. It'll drive you crazy, right? So I think vulnerability for men is more, let me tell you a problem and help me find a solution. For women, it's more like, let me feel seen, feel heard, so that I know that I'm here and you can help to validate how I'm feeling and I don't feel alone.
Totally. You said circles, right? We love circles. Like
Circles,
let's do a women's circle. So you say that to Luke, he'll go, I'm out. I'm gonna run away right now because I don't like circles. Don't keep no me in circles because you have to see everybody, right? Yeah, it's so cool to see that. And then together, that is why a lot of my friends who are couples, and we call them power couple, right? Because the masculine and the feminine are just right there, and it just really complements each other. And there's another thing here. All comes back. I know it sounds so cliche, but it comes back to love, right? You love, and then it's self-love too. It's like you've got to love yourself for you to be able to pour and show up in that way. And since you are a mentality coach, more for men, right? You also work with women too, like I'm one of them. So, but what does that look like for men when you talk about? Do you talk about self-love or you talk about self-care? Even the words are probably different.
Well, I think that male and female love also have different expressions, right? So I always look at it in terms of a dad conversation versus a mom conversation, right? So if you're raising a child, if a child falls down and scrapes their knee, I expect the mom to say, "Are you okay? Let me help you up." I expect a man to say, "You'll be okay. Go ahead and stand up." Right. And so we have different ways of looking at the world. So when it comes to guys, I don't say things like, "Hey, go inward and find love." I tell them, "Hey, the world doesn't respect you because you haven't earned its respect, because you're avoiding the things that the world actually respects, which is doing difficult stuff. You need to prove yourself to the world that you have value and you can bring something back to society. And that will intrinsically make you feel better," which is why men chase status anyway. But we chase status because we're looking for respect in society. And out of respect, women say, "Wow, this is a guy who is moving in the right direction. I like where he's aiming in life. I'm now attracted to that." But a man who loves himself and, eats flaming hot Cheetos and play video games all day, he does nothing for society, including himself.
Some people like that. Hey, no judgment.
Yeah, in general, let's say all the women who want a good man aren't attracted to that, right? It's a very, very small excuse. But for that reason, for guys, instead of saying, "I want you to love yourself," I say, "Give yourself a reason to love yourself." And if you're doing the right things, everyone else will love you as well, right? So men need a lot more outside, kind of like reinforcement and gratification that we're on the right path than women do. Women simply need to get together and discuss things so women feel like they're being heard and they're being seen. But guys, you need to prove yourself, right? So talking doesn't really work as well for guys.
No, guys back in the day, they go to the cave
Right, yeah.
to like, let me
This is
figure
why
this stuff out.
this is why the sisterhood is so important, because women come together, talk, share, hold each other. We're gonna express everything, because that doesn't, like, men are like, So
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
why the sisterhood is so important.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think I mean different cultures, right, work differently, obviously. I feel like in Brazil, I see a lot more of this this man like brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, but it's cultural. They hug each other, they give each other kisses on the cheek, which is here it's very different. Like Alessandra's in Brazil, she knows that the men culture is definitely different depending on where you're from.
Yeah.
In Norway, I feel like they're also like, this is pretty straight and
not so much hugging though.
Yeah, when I was there, I noticed that, they're just like, "Here, I'm good, this is the way that we do things." But then in Brazil, they're like, "Stop touching me." If you take some people that are like, wow, they hug a lot. Yeah, they like to hug.
I do see a lot of men who has a lot of suppressed emotions and maybe haven't had the space to sort of move through any of that. But I love everything that you were talking about around solutions-based, and women need to be heard, and men are just so different.
So one thing that's super interesting is even what you just said about expressing emotions. Like, guys know that. So imagine this: men on average have at least 17 times more testosterone than the average woman. 17 times. So you have to imagine that any emotion we feel is teamed up with that testosterone. So men, we learn from a young age to restrain our emotions. Why? Because prisons are filled with every man who acted emotionally. That's the problem. That's the danger, right? When a man gets emotional, it's dangerous for everyone. So men, naturally, we know that, and we don't encourage it. We teach each other, "Hey, stand up, don't cry, shape yourself up, fix yourself, because it's best for society to keep society safe. As bad as that sounds, that's just how it is, right? Prison doesn't have a bunch of people who acted irrationally. Usually there's a bunch of emotional guys who couldn't restrain themselves, and they're therefore a danger. So we separate them, right? So, but it's also like you said too, it's, one of the biggest difference psychologically between men and women is in dynamics. Women face each other to do things together, and men stand side by side or shoulder to shoulder and face an actual goal.
Yeah, the whole time I'm trying to look at you. He's
You
like,
wrote that yet?
you're not here, so I'm just gonna look at the screen.
We're both facing forward, right? We're side by shoulder. Yeah.
I'm
But
like-
that's kind of how guys are. So for women, you guys get camaraderie and the most understanding by a circle, just like you said, the circle. Everyone's looking at each other. We all see you. For men, it's like, if you're moving in the same path as me, you're my comrade. You're not my friend. You're my comrade. We're a comrade in arms. But if I leave the army and I have different goals in life, we never talk again. That's just how guys are, right? We move toward a system. So I'm in a hunting group heading toward here. If I'm no longer part of the hunting group, I'm not hanging out with those guys anymore, right? So it's a little different. So even the way we support each other is by doing things together.
Mhm.
So the best ways I can learn how to have a conversation with my dad, hey, let's throw a baseball together. Let's go play sports. We have to be doing something as a team in cooperation. That's how we bond. But guys just sitting there talking in a circle, it never really leads to anything positive.
Yeah. And I think the whole masculine, feminine, right? I think one of the biggest shifts was World War II. That, remember that the picture with the woman
Right,
with
yeah.
the bandana, right? It's because women went to work. Because before, women were home. And again, right, you're nurturing that side of you that's natural to nurture, to be the kid. I just love doing the mom thing. By the
Of
way,
course.
after I became a mother, like you said, I think I've developed some superpowers because I can just tell. Like I can look at my kid, and sometimes
Mhm.
if I'm here, and then I'm like, I need to call, hey, and it's always something, right? Yeah, that's the beautiful side of the feminine too. That intuition, that connection. Like we do develop superpowers.
If I can add one small thing to that,
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I know in society too, that, really exhausts women, right? So Marita was saying it a second ago is if a woman has to stay in that masculine energy for too long, the longer she stays there and continues to climb those male hierarchies, the more disconnected she is from having children. So you hear women say, oh, I would never have a kid. I don't want anything to do with children at all. I don't understand these things. Like you're so far removed from your ability to understand emotions. I think that's kind of against our nature. And I think that's really important too, is understanding that as a woman, you need to get a chance to go through your full range of emotions every single day. Right? Same reason why I tell my wife, I encourage her to watch things like Netflix, because the reason why women like dramas is it gives you a chance to express and feel every single emotion over the course of 30 minutes, an hour, or an hour and a half. Then you feel okay at the end because you have to feel all of them. Guys are just like, well, okay, like, what is this really going to do? Because we don't need that wide range. But I think that's super important too. As women climb male hierarchies and build businesses, you guys having these chances to speak to each other, communicate, and feel more emotions is how you stay grounded, in my opinion.
No, totally. Yeah, so then after World War II, like we started putting, the let's get to work. But now I feel like we are at a time where we have the understanding and we have the technology and we have the information where, yeah, we can bring the masculine side when it's needed. But I highly encourage all the women to really tap into that divine feminine, because when you are in that space, magic happens. Same thing that DJ was saying for men. When you're in that space of like the respect and doing the difficult things, and magic happens too. So it's really all connected. And if you don't want to have children, don't be so close to me, because everybody comes across my path, they end up either pregnant or or they're like, oh my gosh, I think I need to have kids now. But I tell my girlfriends, girl, go have babies. It's so nice. You will develop some superpowers. So yeah, well, it's time. This is so sweet. This conversation was so enlightening to have all different ways of looking at it. So we gave some tips here on some of the plants that you can be using. And we are now at the last week of our Metabolic Reset Challenge. So next week we'll come back here and we'll do the closing of that with some before and afters. And I feel like challenges are kind of like masculine driven a little bit, because now I'm going to start doing masculine and feminine for everything I do. But it is because it's task based. It's like task oriented. You have beginning and end, ABC, plan, boom, done. So, and I like that. And I need that for myself. But then I come back into the feminine so I can nourish. Yeah. So we have, if you have any questions about the challenges, how they work, we are going to have another one. We always have throughout the year. And yes, everyone is welcome to participate. And it's cool because you see amazing results in just 30 days. So next week we'll be covering that and just a few more extra little gifts there next week. Anything else you guys want to share to close?
For anybody who's interested in the essential emotions and learning more about it and watching these breakthroughs happen, there actually is a free 5-day emotional breakthrough challenge next week, the 12th through the 16th. So if you want more information, go ahead and message me and I'll send you a link. Or Teddy as well.
It's amazing. Yeah, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So the book name is Essential Emotions, and you can get that on Amazon, Kindle. It's it's easy to find. Well, thank you so much for your time, for your presence, and we'll be here again next week on Set the Pace. Aloha.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye. Thank you.